Man, I gotta tell you, I am disappointed. Not really in the phone, because I kinda already expected that, but in the pro reviewers out there. Because, I mean, I've seen hands-on videos before reviews were out there, which kinda made it look like this phone is the $350 phone to buy, like it's the best Android phone. But I always also told you that a hands-on video is nothing more than a chance for you to see the phone, but don't give anything on it. Because I have to say this. This phone is kind of the epitome of nice or good, but nothing more. And in this review I want to let you know why I think this phone is not just undercooked, a little bit overrated, but also a little bit overpriced. Not bad, not at all. But there are things like, especially for example, the performance that I just have to into, which is actually kind of my biggest gripe, because this phone with a Snapdragon 636 does not nearly perform as a 636 should do. Because I would even go as far and tell you that a Snapdragon 625 obviously, but even a Snapdragon 450 performs better. And I'm not quite sure what they did, and this is mostly what I mean by undercooked. This phone doesn't feel properly optimized. I mean, it is smooth, yes. And I also have to mention that this is the crippled European version that only has 3 gigs of RAM. But that will mostly have an impact on the multitasking, because the normal browsing, I mean, on this phone is fine, it's okay. It usually gets it done, but it is so sluggish. That has a lot to do with the 3 gigabytes of RAM, I have to tell you this. But even if everything is in the RAM, and I didn't really launch too many apps, this phone sometimes just takes seconds to start an app, and sometimes when I want to switch, I think I maybe didn't press the button, and then it reacts. I mean, like I said, smooth, and in occasional use it will do the job. But this is not what a 636 can do, and 636 can do it better. This phone in general just feels a little bit slow, not consistent, and just quite sluggish. Now the next part where I'm also a little bit disappointed is the battery life. And I don't actually understand why, because I expected more. 13% for an hour of YouTube already is quite a not that good sign that the battery life won't be that great, and it wasn't. Because what I got on mobile data is about 4 to 4.5 hours, and on Wi-Fi 6 to 6.5, which doesn't sound bad, and I think the casual, non-power user will get through the day. But that's about that. If I compare this to all the other phones out there, they can easily surpass this by an hour, 2, or even more. So that's also not that great, especially since even with Android One and the quite slick and minimal system, the standby drain wasn't up to par. So also, once again, not fully optimized. But now I'm pretty much done with the bigger complaints, because what I have to get into, which is one thing that I really like, is the design and build quality. Because like I already said in my preview, it is noticeably smaller after all than most phones out there. So it's quite easy to use also with one hand. It is built very, very well, because especially the sides, everything is smoothed off quite nicely, great finish, buttons don't really rattle, great feedback. Fingerprint reader of the not very great ones, or great ones, is one of the better ones. So this is actually a noticeably above fingerprint reader, above average. Camera protrudes just a little bit, the rest is fine. We have a headphone jack, which is nice. Here also the slots, then speaker, USB Type-C. One thing that will disappoint a few people, no notification LED and a notch. Notch is not a problem for me, because it is so small that you pretty much forget it. I mean, unfortunately due to Android One there is no option to hide it. But this, I mean, you get all your notifications, so this shouldn't be an issue. The chin, I know a lot of people don't like big chins, especially if you have the notch. But it is what it is. I actually think it's okay, because you don't have to stretch your finger all the way down. So that's that. Glass here is flat, but it curves off to the sides. But it's actually not the glass, but the rim. So flat, you should find a screen protector quite easily. So that's that. Now the display. I'm gonna tell you this. It is a pretty much high quality display, but not extreme high quality. Especially if you see HDR, you expect it to be super bright. But with 445 lux, this is not anything special. You get this on so many mid-range phones. A little bit better mid-range phones, yes. And then there is the issue that due to Android One, you don't have any chance to calibrate it. And I have to just say that white out of the box is noticeably too cold. I mean, colors are still nice, even though I have to say that some colors, especially reds, are completely off in certain situations, and I don't really get that. In certain situations, red is kind of like super vibrant, super vivid, and then sometimes it's almost pink, so calibration is a little bit off. Shouldn't really bother anyone, but it's something that I have to point out. But it's still a quite okay display. Now what about the speaker? No complaints about that one at all, because it is actually nice and loud. One of the louder ones with pretty much no distortion, which is quite nice. It's maybe not the most high quality sound, but it sounds good, distortion free, quite warm, quite rich. So this one is actually one of the stronger parts on this phone, for obviously a bottom firing one. And also the headphone jack on a good level. It's loud enough, it's maybe not crazy detailed, but it should power pretty much every solid in-ear headphones. Maybe not so much, because it's still maybe just about a little bit over average, but still, that is fine. Software I'm not really gonna talk about, because this is Android One. And I'm gonna just say it once again, I think it's too limited. It's great that you get update support for long. It's great that you have already the newest version, even though it's actually not 9 yet, it's 8.1. But it should get it quite soon. But you just don't really get any options, because there is no option to get a percentage here up top. You get it if you swipe down. And a few other things. But usually Nokia is quite quick in updating them, so all those things are good. Now camera is where I usually take like 5 or 6 minutes recently to get it done. But I'm just gonna say this. The camera is absolutely okay, it's nice, and I don't really want to get into it. What I will show you after pretty much the conclusion is done, I will show you the samples, but not really talk much about it. So I'm just gonna say that everything is okay. Nothing is groundbreaking, nothing is super bad. The only thing that I would maybe have to point out is that whenever you lose the flash just seems to overpower the picture, and it just gets not really too bright, but too over flashed, so it looks off. Other than that, low light is okay. Main camera, just for photos, would actually be the strongest part, with a solid autofocus, solid shutter speeds, and so everything else. But nothing else out of the ordinary, even though we have now Zeiss, which I still think that Nokia didn't quite get the transition from Windows Phone, where they made great cameras, and now they still struggle to make above average cameras. So samples later on, and now already the conclusion. And my conclusion is, like I said, undercooked. I mostly mean the performance, and also standby drain and battery life in general. Those things, performance and battery, should be better. A Snapdragon 636 can do it better. With the battery size and everything, it should be better. Obviously, like I said, the 3GB RAM version is a little bit limited in terms of multitasking, but I don't think that's the issue why this phone feels so sluggish. I've used even 2GB phones that felt more responsive like this one. This one sometimes, battery life, like I said as well. But then again, the display is sweet for this price, but nothing special though. Speaker is a little bit above average, and the camera is good. So, undercooked, I explained. Overrated, I don't get it. I've seen reviews saying that this is the best Android One phone. It's not. There is a Nokia. Actually, also, yeah, a Nokia 8 Scirocco that is most definitely better, even though I haven't used it. There is a Nokia 7.1, which obviously is better, which actually also proves me with the undercooked thing. Because when I reviewed it, I had a little bit of an issue with multitasking. And it got fixed. People told me that in the comments, but 3 months later. And if this phone takes also 3 months to get the performance where it should be, that's just too late. I don't want to use a phone for 3 months until it runs like it should from day one. And overrated is just something because it's not the best one. There's also Mi A2. So those are already 3 examples of better Android One phones. And yeah, a lot of people also brag about the thing that now we have a good mid-range phone in the US. I'm not in the US, but I mean. And maybe in the US you are a little bit unfortunate that you don't really get good mid-ranges. But just because of that, I wouldn't go for this. There are alternatives. I'm pretty sure a Moto G6 or something like that is available, or maybe a Moto X4 or similar phones that are also very stockish, but after all have better value. And overpriced with 350 it is. I mean 340 euros. So I would say 250 maybe if they, or maybe even almost 300, close to 300 if they fix a little bit the battery life, but especially the sluggishness on the performance. So that's that. I'm no hater. If you think I'm a Nokia hater, just watch my Nokia 7.1 review or the Nokia 8 review. Those prove it. That I gave a good review to a good phone, and a bad one to a bad phone like the first Nokia 6. And now you can watch the samples. Okay? Until next time. Bye. Okay, so this is the front-facing video cam of the Nokia 7.1. Crop seems extreme, therefore it seems quite nicely stabilized, but a little bit wobbly also. And in low light it seems to degrade very much. About the stereo or Ozo audio, I'll let you be the judge of that. But there seems to be some little bit of shakiness when I move it, and then it kind of gets a little bit blurry for a moment to kind of compensate. So EIS, yeah, well, we'll see about that. Audio quality I have to check later on. But the stabilization seems a little bit on the slower side. Maybe it is good, I have to see that on the video yet, but quality, especially in lower light, did not really see all that good, because if I go back, I mean, seems to get very, very, very blurry. But in normal situations, if you just want to maybe talk, vlog, I mean, if you want to vlog with this, I guess you need kind of a selfie stick, otherwise it's just a little bit too far, because this is a normal distance and barely my head fits in, and people want something a little bit more where you have to stretch. But yeah, that's that.